If you have found yourself repeatedly pulled into difficult emotional interactions with others or feeling frustrated in your relationships, the information in this video can help you free yourself from these patterns and develop healthier emotional boundaries. I'm Marcia Mandel, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor and coach who's focused on helping people feel the way they want to feel in the context of whatever is going on in their lives. In this video, you'll learn where your distress might be coming from in any type of relationship. You'll learn about unconscious thought patterns that could be keeping you stuck in negativity. We'll also look at how you can think about these things differently to free yourself from these patterns. Have you ever asked yourself, what is my goal in communication? Is it to make the other person understand something or agree with you? Is it to try to get them to stop saying something or change their behavior? In this video, you'll see why this is a big problem and repeatedly leads to frustration, disappointment, and conflict. You'll learn that by changing your goal in communication, you can de-escalate conflict, help yourself calm down, and be more at peace with the situation. This represents a person, could be you, me, or anyone else. In this case, it's someone who is saying something or acting in a way that you don't like. Maybe it's a disagreement, disapproval, criticism, or something else, but you don't like it. There are three general ways of responding to this situation: negative, neutral, or positive. Let's take a look at each one of these. Each one has what I call hallmark thoughts that are connected to their emotions and reactions. This person is in a lot of distress. They may be thinking, I can't take this. I need to make them understand. They have to stop. How could they do this to me? Or, this is killing me. There's a big problem with these thoughts. Having a goal of something that is technically out of your control doesn't make sense. If they continue to allow themselves to dwell on these thoughts, could they possibly be feeling better? The answer is no. These thoughts are linked to the distress. If you continue to think this way, the frustration, hurt, sadness, anger, hopelessness, or other distress will be sustained and amplified. Furthermore, these thoughts and emotions will lead to unhelpful behaviors, such as being defensive and escalating the conflict. This is not about turning a negative into a positive. It's not about ignoring or pretending to feel okay. This is about understanding the mechanism of these patterns of conflict. Remember, you do always have a choice. You can continue to allow yourself to repeat these patterns, or you can consider being open-minded, also known as having cognitive flexibility, which is a hallmark aspect of mental wellness. Let's take a look at what the problem is with these thoughts. They're irrational, also known as cognitive distortions. Starting with the thought, I can't take this. If you're listening to this, that's a false thought, because here you are. As difficult as it was, you did tolerate that person's behavior. The second one, I need to make them understand. It's actually not possible to make another person understand something. You want them to understand, but it's not a need and it's out of your control. The most you can do is try to express yourself, convey your message, and hope that they hear it. That's it. The next one, they have to stop. No, they don't. This is also out of your control. As much as you might want them to stop, you cannot make them. If you're telling yourself that you have to, that will lead to no end of your frustration. The next one, how could they do this to me? Well, the fact is their behavior is something that they are doing, period. If you tell yourself that they're doing this to you, then you're personalizing it. Their behavior is actually about them, not you. And the last one, this is killing me. This is also clearly false. There's a saying from self-perception theory, as I hear myself speak, I learn what I believe. The same is true with our thoughts. We brainwash ourselves with our thoughts. The problem with this is that your brain does not filter out false or unhelpful thoughts on its own. Let's take a look at what's happening with this person in the middle with a neutral face. On the inside, they're frustrated, but they do not want to show it on the outside. They're trying to ignore it, but they still have these irrational beliefs, cognitive distortions that are amplifying their distress. Trying to wear an I'm okay mask while stuffing thoughts and feelings is exhausting and unsustainable. Thoughts and emotions do not like to be stuffed, buried, or masked. They tend to just keep poking at us until we pay attention. If we're telling ourselves that we can't take something and at the same time telling ourselves that we can't show it, we're creating an internal dissonance or incongruence. This amplifies distress, frustration, and any other negativity, and there's no resolution because we're creating a battle within ourselves. When this escalates, we have trouble containing ourselves. This means we might have behaviors that we're not too happy about, and this might include yelling, isolating, lashing out, or numbing. These behaviors often lead to feelings of guilt or shame, and the cycle continues as long as we're trying to stuff our emotions. You can think of emotions like the proverbial elephant in the room. If it's there, and ignoring it does not work. Emotions work the same way. Trying to ignore, mask, or bury them does not work at all. You can't just shut them down or turn them off. It just makes sense to turn towards them. We can decide to allow the emotions to be felt, which is all they need. They need us to hold some space and allow ourselves to feel what we feel. For now, there are two important points to remember. The first is that it can be a fact that you have an emotion, but the emotion may not be based on a fact. It can be a fact that you feel sad, frustrated, disappointed, or hopeless, but those feelings may be based on cognitive distortions, such as I can't stand this. The second is that all emotions are valid. If it's there, it's there. Allow yourself to feel what you feel. You are able to hold space for your own emotions, and that's what they need. Allowing yourself to stay in the cycle of having strong emotions and trying to ignore them leads to flip-flopping and bigger problems. Is it possible to focus on different thoughts about this? We're not talking about happy, positive thoughts, just different ones. The answer to this question is always yes. You might be thinking, what is this person on the bottom possibly thinking? They've decided to change their goal in communication. They've realized that trying to change the other person doesn't make sense. First, they're calming their body with a nice deep breath and taking a step back. This is helpful in several ways. Choosing to focus on your breath interrupts the pull of negativity, which could bring you into a rabbit hole or being emotionally hijacked. In this state, we can't think clearly, speak well, or regulate our behavior. Taking a nice, deep, slow breath sends calming messages from your body to your brain. This state of being is incompatible with distressful emotions. Taking a deep, slow breath helps us to think more clearly. Now we can take a step back for a broader, more objective perspective. We can shift towards rational or helpful thoughts. Instead of thinking about how much they can't stand it or want to change the other person's behavior, they're acknowledging that this is really difficult and unfortunate. They're reminding themselves that whatever this person is saying is a reflection of what's going on in their mind, and it's about them, not me. If the other person is saying, "How could you be so stupid?" they're being judgmental. We don't know if they're really thinking that or if they're having a bad day or something else. And even if they are thinking, how could you be so stupid, or whatever, it's a reflection of how their mind is working. It's about them, it's not about you. This person knows that as difficult as this is, they can tolerate it instead of engaging with it. It's too bad that the other person is sharing these thoughts or trying to impose them on you, but that's about them. They may be frustrated that you don't agree with them, or they may be trying to control or manipulate you, the way you may have been trying to control them and their thoughts. This is their problem, not yours. This calmer person is able to recognize that the other person may be emotionally hijacked. This means they are fired up with a lot of activity in the emotional part of their brain. They may be unable to listen, understand, or engage in any kind of rational civil conversation. The neural projections from their emotional brain or limbic system are dominating their rational mind or prefrontal cortex. This is part of the stress response on the fight or flight spectrum. We literally cannot outthink this part of the brain if it's past a certain point. This is the same mechanism that makes you slam on your brakes when you haven't even had time to think about it. Since they took some deep breaths and a step back, they're able to remember that in the past it hasn't been helpful to get into this when the other person's acting this way. As much as they don't like it, they realize that it's counterproductive to get hooked into it in this moment. They've decided that instead of getting into the same issue again, getting defensive, or trying to change the other person in some way, they're changing their goal to refraining from getting engaged, and then to refocus on something that makes sense. They're validating their feelings and their wish for things to be different. They're remembering that they can't force the other person to think, feel, or act differently, and they're shifting their mental spotlight towards other things. They're decreasing the weight that was previously given to the other person's behavior, and they're refocusing. They're recognizing that there's no benefit to dwelling on it, so they've decided that for now, it makes sense to take care of themselves. After refuting and changing their irrational thoughts, practicing acceptance and self-compassion, this calmer person is able to shift their attention toward things that help them feel the way they want to feel. Managing their mental spotlight is empowering and elicits a sense of calm. Everyone has the ability to practice some of these steps for healthier emotional boundaries. Thank you for watching, and please check back for more courses on other aspects of mental wellness.